US President Donald Trump reverses his proposal to impose a 20% toll on ships transiting the Strait of Hormuz. He says that the Gulf countries will instead increase their investments in the United States. Oil prices ease post Trump's latest announcement. IBM shares plunge more than 20%, the biggest one-day fall since 1987, after the tech giant reported weaker than expected preliminary earnings for the second quarter. The company also warned that the ongoing AI investment boom is squeezing enterprise software budgets, weighing on the demand for its software business. Infosys and Wipro ADRs also saw a sharp fall in trade. Meanwhile, key benchmark indices remain resilient, trading in the green currently. Benchmark indices ended near the day's lows as escalating tensions in West Asia pushed Brent crude prices closer to $87 per barrel mark. Nifty snaps its three-day winning momentum, closing just above 24,050. No respite for rupee too as it plunges to the lowest level since May 22nd amid spike in the global oil prices. Gross direct tax collection for the current fiscal year up to July 13 rise 16% year-on-year to 7.73 lakh crore. Meanwhile, net direct tax collections rise 6.51 lakh crore, up over 16% compared to last year. And at Google I/O in Bengaluru, Karnataka Chief Minister D.K. Shivakumar announces the setting up of India's first ever government-backed AI university. He highlights from the event coming up on the show. Hello and welcome to Business at 9. I'm Shivani Kharat. Now, a day after he said that US will be reimbursed 20% of the shipment fees for guarding the Hormuz, US President Donald Trump has now said that he will replace 20% reimbursement fee with trade deals. He claims that Gulf states will make investments in the US. My colleague Sumita will soon join us with more details on this. Here is another U-turn from President Trump on Hormuz. And he claims that oil is flowing like never before. Hormuz is open to all ships traffic except for Iran. Now my colleague Sumita joins in with more details on this another U-turn by Trump on the Strait of Hormuz. Sumita, tell us more.
Absolutely. In fact, reportedly, 24 hours after proposing it, the U.S. president has dropped his demand for a 20% toll for cargo, and that's through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, instead, he says that based on highly productive conversations that he's had with Middle East leadership, he's now decided to replace a 20% United States reimbursement fee with trade and investment deals that the various Gulf states, according to him, will be making with the United States. In fact, he took a day to reverse his plans to charge a 20% toll on cargo through the Strait of Hormuz, saying that Middle Eastern countries will instead make investment deals with the U.S. Now, President Trump has said that these investments will be massive, although it's not really clear as to what would be the nature of these commitments and, would the new commitments relative to what President Trump announced after a visit last year to the Middle East. So, of course, that remains to be seen. But definitely it's a big one that's coming in from President Donald Trump. Remember, this is also part of the skirmishes that we've seen between Iran and the United States. And, of course, the matter boils down to the fact that who owns the Strait of Hormuz. And that is something that Iran, in the MOU, reportedly the 14-point MOU that was agreed upon between the United States and Iran in June this year, it had this point mentioned that Iran will enable the free flow of ships or vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. And then in future, there's going to be a mechanism between Iran and Oman to come up with an administrative mechanism of sorts for the Strait of Hormuz. And, of course, we've seen in the recent past the United States administration suggesting that Iran does not control the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. CENTCOM has also made those comments and claims whilst at the same time attacking Iran as well.
Thank you so much for that. Now, moving on, U.S. markets opened higher after June inflation came in lower than expected. The S&P 500 gained 0.3%, while Nasdaq Composite advanced 0.6%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average edged up 0.2%. Now, chip stocks rebounded from the previous session's sell-off, lending support to equities. However, the upside remained limited as U.S. crude climbed above $80 a barrel and IBM shares plunged 24%, weighing on the market sentiment. Now, U.S. inflation cooled more than expected in June, strengthening expectations that price pressures are easing. Headline CPI fell 0.4% month-on-month against expectations of 0.1% increase, while core inflation rose 2.6% year-on-year, below the 2.8% estimate. Core CPI also changed on monthly basis compared with forecast of 0.2% rise. Despite softer inflation print, Federal Reserve Chair Kevin Walsh struck a cautious note, saying central bank has no tolerance for persistently high inflation, signaling that policymakers will continue to closely monitor price trends before making any decision on interest rates. Now, Federal Reserve Chairman Kevin Walsh testified before the House Financial Services Committee as a part of the congressionally mandated semi-annual monetary policy report. He said that he wants economy to be more broad-based and wants inflation increase to be limited. Let's listen in.
My colleagues and I recognize that high inflation has been an undue burden on American households and businesses. And while monthly price volatilities and variations are inevitable, especially in an unsettled world, underlying inflation over longer time horizons is determined largely by monetary policy. As the chairman said at the outset, inflation's a choice. The members of our committee have no tolerance for persistently elevated inflation, and we share a resolute commitment to ensure price stability. This was the focus of our June meeting, at which we decided to hold the target range in the Fed funds rate at 3.5% to 3.75%. Now, naturally, our work at the Fed demands a proper reading on economic conditions. As you see in our report, economic activity grew at a solid pace, showing remarkable resilience in the face of recent developments.
Now, the Reserve Bank of India held its half-yearly meeting with the heads of public sector and select private sector banks, with Governor Sanjay Malhotra urging lenders to strengthen technology adoption while keeping customers' interest at the center of banking operations. The RBI stressed greater use of AI to improve efficiency and customer experience, while emphasizing robust cybersecurity, fraud prevention, and responsible handling of customer data. Key initiatives such as CBDC, ULI, Account Aggregator, CKYCR, and Mule Hunter were also reviewed. We have Ankur on the phone line with more details.
Yes, Reserve Bank of India Governor did meet MD and CEOs of public sector banks as well as select private sector banks. And this was a kind of a half-yearly meeting where a lot of discussion has actually happened on AI use, particularly where Reserve Bank of India has asked banks to leverage the advanced technologies, including AI, to expand the reach, and also mentioned that it can help banks improve operational efficiency, and it will also reduce the cost, whereby the operational costs can be optimized. Reserve Bank of India has also asked banks to use technology to enhance the customer experience as well. And sources have also informed us that there were other issues, including mobilization of deposits, the current FCNRB issue, were also discussed in the meeting. Now, the Reserve Bank of India has stressed about robust cyber security, strong internal controls, as well as safeguards against frauds.
Right, Ankur, thank you so much for that update. Now, RBI has unveiled draft norms on acquisition and voting rights in banks. Central banks aim to simplify regulatory framework governing acquisitions of major stakes in banks by mutual funds, insurers, and pension funds. My colleague Anurag Joshi gets us more details on this.
The Reserve Bank of India has unveiled draft norms on acquisition and voting rights in banks by mutual funds, pension funds, and insurance companies. The RBI is to grant a one-time approval for repeat purchase of major stake in banks by mutual funds, insurers and pension funds. The RBI says that the norms are to ease the approvals for repeat purchases, and asset management companies had sought regulation on the repeat purchases of stake in lenders. Since November 2025, investors seeking initial acquisition of a major stake in the banks will need RBI approval, and if the stake after initial acquisition falls below 5%, prior RBI clearance is needed for the repeat purchase. The RBI may grant such approval for acquisition of a major stake up to 10%. A qualifying person who secures such approvals but doesn't hold a major shareholding will be called qualifying person with one-time approval. The RBI has sought public comments on the draft norms by August 4.
Now, SBI today unveiled its first trial index of services production data in a move to overhaul of the country's economic statistics and provide key data on activity in services sector that account for more than half of GDP. As per the first set of data ever released, 14 out of 19 subsectors saw double-digit growth, with hospitality and retail trade seeing the sharpest growth. My colleague Kuldeep Singh joins in with more details from Delhi.
Well, the government has released first trial index of services production, providing monthly measure of activity in services sector, which accounts for more than 50% of the economy. According to the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, the ISP has 24-25 as its base year, and it will complement the index of industrial production, which measures growth in industrial sector. Right now, the ISP is covering more than 60% of the services sector, and it has 19 subsectors. The index that has been released today is for the month of April. And as per the data provided by MOSPI, the sectors that recorded strong growth in April are accommodation and food with 37.2% year-on-year growth, retail trade 30.8%, administrative and support services 28.7%, and real estate 27.7%. This index also reflects the impact of West Asia crisis. As we can see, the air transport services contracted 13.9% year-on-year in the month of April. This is largely due to increase in fuel prices. Additionally, the growth in railway transport also contracted marginally by 0.4%. Now, this ISP, as I said, that it covers more than 60% of services sector and has 19 subsectors. So right now, health and education, these two sectors are excluded because MOSPI said that the data for these two sectors is not available in GST. And the government is working to compile ISP of the subsectors like health and residential care, education, and ownership of dwellings based on administrative data to ensure coverage of more than 80%. So once the coverage of ISP will increase to more than 80%, the government MOSPI will come out with a full-fledged ISP, and it will also provide the headline figure. Right now, in the data that has been provided for the month of April, there is no headline figure for the index of services production. Apart from health and education, some other sectors like public administration, defense, RBI, and pension fund, etc., these sectors have also been excluded from ISP. Now, the MOSPI stated that ISP will be released on 29th of every month with a lag of 60 days, and the reason for that is because of unavailability of GST data before the gap of 2 months. So there is a lag of 60 days in GST data as well, so that is why that will be reflected here too. Now the MOSPI will release the ISP for the month of May on 29th of July.
Right, Kuldeep. Now, Chief Economic Advisor V. Anantha Nageshwaran has underlined the significance of the Integrated Survey Platform, or ISP, launched by the Ministry of Statistics, or MOSPI. He says that the platform will improve speed and quality of the economic data collection, especially for the services sector, helping policymakers take faster and more informed decisions. Let's listen in.
The smaller half of the economy, and no monthly number for the larger half, and this fills the gap. Industry, which is little under a third of the gross value added, has had an index of industrial production, as he said it, for decades. Services, which have been more than half of the gross value added since 2013-14, have had nothing of that kind, and we have been driving, therefore, with the headlamp pointed towards the shorter side of the road, and from today, that is now changing. Of course, services are not easy to measure because, and it is worth saying why it is the case. A car leaving a factory can be counted. A ton of cement can be weighed. But a consultation, a software release, a train journey, a loan sanctioned, these are all produced and consumed at the same moment. There is nothing to weigh and nothing to put in a warehouse.
Right, moving on, prominent online gaming companies including Gamescraft Technologies and Junglee Games have moved the Supreme Court seeking a review of its landmark judgment that upheld the 28% GST levy on online games involving monetary stakes. The review petitions filed today challenged the Supreme Court's May 27 judgment, which had upheld the constitutional validity of the tax and rejected challenges to retrospective GST demands reportedly worth over 1.5 lakh crore. My colleague Kuldeep filed a report earlier today.
Well, the online gaming companies have moved the Supreme Court seeking review of its May 27th judgment, wherein the apex court had upheld 28% retrospective GST levy on online gaming companies. The gaming companies such as Junglee Games India Private Limited and Sachiko Gaming Private Limited have filed a review petition in the apex court seeking the review of apex court's judgment of May 27th. We must tell the viewers here that following the apex court judgment of upholding retrospective levy of GST at 28% on online gaming, the tax arrears on gaming companies are worth over rupees 1.5 lakh crore, and as per many tax experts, this area seems to be quite difficult for gaming companies to pay because a lot of gaming companies have shut down their operations, and this would be a difficult task for them to pay this area. Now, while rejecting the gaming company's petition on May 27th, the apex court had held that the GST is payable on the full face value of bets or entry amounts and not merely on platform fees or gross gaming revenue. The apex court had also accepted the centre's argument that the 2023 GST amendments only clarified the existing legal position and did not introduce a fresh levy, thereby validating retrospective tax demands. Now, this review petition has been filed before the apex court. However, the date of hearing has not been decided yet. In fact, today only this review petition has been filed, and we must tell the viewers here that the bench which had passed the original judgment on May 27th, the same bench would hear this review petition and it would be heard at the chamber of the bench.
Now, India's direct tax collection continued to show healthy growth in the current fiscal year. Gross direct tax collections have risen 16.1% year-on-year to 7.74 lakh crore as of July 13. Net direct tax collections have achieved 24.1% of the FY27 budget target. We have Kuldeep with more details on this.
Well, the gross direct tax collection is up 16.1% year-on-year to rupees 7.73 lakh crore as per the data shared by the Ministry of Finance today. Now, if you look at the net tax collection, which is after refunds, so the net tax collection recorded a growth of 16.4% to rupees 6.51 lakh crore, and the refunds growth was 14.57% to rupees 1.22 lakh crore rupees. So this data is till July 13th. As per the Ministry of Finance, and if we look at this data, it reflects momentum in economy. Now, if we break up the data corporate and income tax growth wise, so the corporate tax growth was 22% to rupees 2.40 lakh crore till July 13th year-on-year. This means that there has been business activity going on. The companies have been doing well. This is what the data shows. In fact, if we see the last year's growth figures, so the corporate tax collection for FY26 was somewhere around 10%, and the income tax growth for the FY26 was somewhere around 5%. Now, here the net income tax growth is 11.6% till July 13 to rupees 3.84 lakh crore. But remember, this is the beginning of financial year. We are hardly this is for till the 13th July. So this is just the beginning of financial year. But so far, the numbers are showing good signs, positive signs of good momentum in the economy.
And Google's flagship event, Google I/O, kicked off in Bengaluru today. The big headline, of course, was Karnataka Chief Minister D.K. Shivakumar announcing the government's plans to set up India's first ever government-backed AI university in the state. Meanwhile, my colleague Mansi Dave spoke exclusively to Google's Seema Rao along with the sidelines of that event on how AI is reshaping entrepreneurship and innovation. Here is more from that conversation, as well as a mood check from Google I/O.
Artificial intelligence is no longer a technology of tomorrow. Well, it is rapidly becoming the infrastructure of today's economy. From healthcare and education to startups and enterprise, AI is redefining how we build, innovate and solve problems. As India emerges as one of the world's largest AI developer ecosystem, the next question is no longer whether AI will transform our future, but how we shape that future responsibly is the question. Welcome to the special coverage of Google I/O Connect India 2026.
Now, India is looking to build AI solutions that are designed for its own healthcare needs. AIMS is working on training Google's Gemma healthcare model using curated Indian data sets to make AI more relevant for Indian patients and doctors. AIMS Dr. Somesh Gupta says AI is not here to replace doctors, but to work alongside them, helping improve patient care and clinical decision-making. Let's listen in.
If you look at the global models, they are skewed, the data is skewed, they are trained on the skewed data, which is less on Indian or I would say global South data. So what we are doing, we are training the Google's Gemma model, which is healthcare model, on Indian data set, curated Indian data set, so that this model, and we are developing foundational model for health for Indian population, so that these foundational model already trained on already pre-trained models to develop Indian solutions for the Indian population. So these models have to be trained with Indian data in India.
Also, Dr. Somesh, if AI can diagnose faster than doctors, then is there a time for change, and does the role of a physician fundamentally change then?
Yeah, so there is a lot of apprehension across the globe among the physicians that whether AI would take away their job, which is not the case. So most of the time AI is faster in some specific tasks, but healthcare is not just about making a diagnosis. It involves a lot of other things like hand-holding and a human touch, and so many other things, and taking complex decisions, which AI is still not good at. So that way, only human physicians, to human physicians, AI is a good assistant. It is not a replacement of human doctors. So those doctors who are utilizing AI, they are more empowered to deal with the current problems and also complex problems. So it is physician plus AI rather than physician versus AI.
Now, in a landmark verdict in the 2020 Delhi riots case, a Delhi court has convicted former AAP councillor Tahir Hussain and his 4 others for murder of Intelligence Bureau officer Ankit Sharma. The judgment marks the first murder conviction linked to the Northeast Delhi riots. Reacting to the verdict, BJP national spokesperson Shehzad Poonawala called the 2020 violence an anti-Hindu massacre and said the conviction delivers long-awaited justice for Ankit Sharma's family. Sentencing is expected to follow after the conviction order. Now let's go up to Ladakh, and climate activist Sonam Wangchuk's indefinite hunger strike enters its 17th day with his health deteriorating sharply. According to his health reports, Wangchuk has lost more than 8 kilograms and is suffering from low blood pressure and severe weakness. As concerns over his health conditions grow, several public figures, including Abhay Deol, Zinat Aman and Omi Vaidya, back Wangchuk's hunger strike. Supporters have appealed to him to end the fast while urging the centre to engage with his demands. And as for the FIFA Football World Cup's trivia of the day, here is a World Cup record that stood the test of time. Now, back in 2002, Turkey's Hakan Şükür stunned South Korea by scoring just 11 seconds after the kickoff of the fastest goal in the FIFA Football World Cup history. More than 2 decades later, no player has managed to break that incredible record. And before we leave, don't miss Football and Fortune, ET Now's special on FIFA Football World Cup 2026 as the tournament builds towards its grand finale. We go beyond the action on pitch to decode the business of football, from billion-dollar revenues and sponsorship to the global economic impact of the world's biggest sporting event. Catch the Football and Fortune on July 17th at 9 p.m. only on ET Now. Now, before we wrap this edition of Business at 9, let's go over to what's happening at Google I/O, where my colleague Mansi Dave has spoken to Seema Rao, who's the MD of Google India, on the sidelines of Google I/O's Bangalore edition.
The Indian startup journey, we are quick to pivot and we are quick to seize the opportunity that comes in front of us. Indian founders are now building deep applied AI solutions and truly innovating at every stack to build globally defensible moats, which in turn end up as durable long-term businesses. So we're super excited to be partnering with many of them.
Absolutely. Seema, AI has dramatically reduced the cost of building products. If technology is no longer the differentiator, what becomes a real competitive advantage according to you? Is it the execution, the distribution, the trust, or founders' quality?
I think it's all four, honestly, because you need everything to come together to make a great business. Technology, yeah, I think the barrier to technology has definitely dropped quite a bit. But there is a deep domain understanding that you need to build truly deep applied AI applications that can transform an enterprise, right? And for which enterprises are willing to actually pay, and not just a one-time on a recurring, like multi-annual basis. And so there is the whole domain knowledge that has now become super important. The other angle is how do you think global and have a combination of both deep research as well as global product intuition and know-how, and building from India but truly solving and serving global opportunities, again another area. And then lastly, to truly scale and be enterprise grade, how do you think about security and safety from these?
So India is already investing, is in a very significant manner. So we have so many now developers, AI developers, who are solving real-world problems with the help of AI. There are many companies like Sarvam, which have also started to train LLMs from scratch and build models right here. There are many partners that we work with who are also using some of these open models like Gemma to build further models. There are in areas like healthcare, we have made open models like MedGemma available. And again, there are additional developers who are working with organizations like AIMS to build specialized models for different health conditions. So there's a lot of very meaningful action happening in AI space in India, and we look forward to India continuing to become a stronger player.
Absolutely. And an event like this explains how big the AI transformation and how important it has become for the masses. But if intelligence becomes abundant, Manish, what becomes scarce? Human creativity, judgment, trust, or is it something that we haven't yet imagined so far?
So I think one of the key areas where humans need to continue to play a very key role is even identifying which problems to prioritize. And of course, today, human judgment plays a very key role because, as we discussed earlier, there are issues sometimes of hallucination, and ultimately these are probabilistic models. So they are not relying on perfect reasoning. So there is both human judgment, but to me, the exciting thing is that as these models become more powerful, there are so many what like Demis Hassabis refers to as root node problems, really tough problems that if solved would open up the solutions to so many downstream problems. We no longer need to be limited by just human capability alone. We can use the superpower of these models together with human ingenuity to start making a dent on some of these problems, like finding cures to all of the different diseases, finding abundant forms of renewable energy, finding new materials and so on. So that's where I really get excited about the potential for humans and AI working together to solve really, really hard problems.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business at 9. Goodbye from me, Shubhani Bharat, and the entire team of ET Now.